Welcome back, casual gardeners. Do you want to protect your crops from frost, but you don't have room for a greenhouse? Hoops! Do you want to protect your lettuce from heat, but you don't have something to hang your shade cloth on? Hoops! Do you want to reenact your favorite scenes from Little House on the Prairie in your garden? Yeah! Protect your crops from pests, but you do not want to spend the money on a greenhouse? Well, I give you hoops. And it's not very often that you can find just the one thing that can do a bunch of really awesome stuff. A couple months back, Huw Richards on his channel did a video, constructed a hinged hoop house onto his raised beds. And that's a really cool idea. It allows you season extension directly in your raised bed. But there are a couple of problems with that. It's only good for season extension, and you need a raised bed. I am going to link to Huw Richards' video in the description because it is a sweet setup and you should check it out. And if you haven't watched his channel, you should check that out too. He's a really great gardener in the UK. But I wanted to share, something a little bit more accessible. You're able to build hoops without even having a raised bed, which means if you're growing in the ground, you can still have hoops. You also have more flexibility. Instead of just greenhouse plastic, you can swap that out with insect netting. And you can extend your growing season for lettuce by draping some shade cloth over it. If you're not working in a raised bed to do this, you are going to want to have some sort of stake to attach things to. My preferred stake in the garden for heavy-duty use is rebar stakes. If you're working in a raised bed, you actually don't need stakes at all because the walls of your raised bed are going to hold your hoops where you want them to be. I am using PVC hoops because I like this diameter. It has a good flexibility to it, but it's also quite rigid. So once I've put in my hoops, they are there to stay, but also, I can bend them without a lot of effort. Now, before I make with the staking and the hooping, hey look, wooden stakes. I am going to want to cut these to a slightly shorter length. Now, because I am making this video on Earth Day, I should talk about the fact that I basically told you to use plastic in your garden.
No, he didn't.
Yes, I did. This takes a long time to break down. This is not single-use plastic. It is best if you can avoid it, but we don't all have conduit cutting tools and bending and shaping tools in our homes. If you wanted to work with metal conduit, that is of course going to last the lifetime of your garden and be almost infinitely reusable and infinitely recyclable.
It's going to last me a lifetime.
But most of us can just have the tools to work with the plastic. Please do not throw these offcuts away if you can find other uses for them. I mean, don't hoard them. I don't want to be responsible if rescue personnel go to your house and find you buried under a pile of PVC offcuts and gardening magazines in full hoarder mode. Happy Earth Day. Got my PVC cut to length. Now it is time to install it. And I'm excited about, that's a weed. I'm excited about installing it in this bed because this is my leafy greens bed. All of it is delicious to all of the critters. So if you're using a stake, you're going to pound that in first. Isn't a lot of pounding. All right, now I'm going to put in my hoop and accomplished. This is my first of 3 hoops I'm going to go put on this bed. You want your hoops spaced no further apart than 3 or 4 feet because otherwise your material is going to sag between the hoops. Now some folks will do a little centerpiece, maybe some side pieces between the hoops to deal with that. But honestly, it's unnecessary and it just gets in my way and makes me annoyed. So that's the whole process. I did not need the stakes because I've got raised beds. If you're working in the ground though, stakes might become necessary. If you live somewhere windy, you'll have a lot more resistance to having your hoops blown over. When you're using insect netting to control pests, you can get meshes that will exclude whiteflies and aphids. So it's a kind of an awesome option if you're into chemical-free control methods, if you like to go the mechanical route. Some people like to use tulle for insect netting. That's the cute little froofy fabric. I don't recommend it. It is cheaper and it is easier to find. Well, I just can't find it in the widths I need. This is 10 feet wide to go over my bed. And then on top of that, it's not gonna last very long in the sun. It will develop larger holes than you want, and it'll just let the insects through. Make sure you put your netting on before you see any pests in your garden bed. If the pests are already in there and you throw the netting over your bed, you're just going to convert your beautiful vegetable bed into a pest buffet. I did put those flowers in the foreground on purpose because they're pretty. So behind me is an example of horticultural fleece. It's not quite the right size for this bed. It's from my old garden, so I've just kind of draped it over my hoops so you can see what it looks like. This is a very lightweight horticultural fleece. You can get different weights, and the heavier the weight, the more frost protection you get from your fleece. So I like to go with light weights in my raised beds. It gives me a little bit more leeway. A heavier weight fleece is going to block more light, and it is going to get hotter in there during the day. Lighter weight fleeces are going to release a little bit more heat during the day so they don't overheat quite as fast. Also, you can use your fleece over hoops to help you harden off plants with less stress to the plant, because they are giving you a little bit more temperature protection at night, and they're blocking a little bit of light and keeping things a little bit more calm and humid under the fleece. This is my greenhouse shade cloth, not my raised bed shade cloth. I've just draped it over, and that's why it looks a bit slapdash. But you could do something that looks just like this and get some temperature control and light control for a garden bed. So the example I love to go back to is lettuce. Lettuce likes cooler temperatures. It doesn't like a lot of hot sun in the summer. And so a lot of us can't grow our own lettuce over the summer if we get warm enough summers. Putting some shade cloth over your lettuce reduces the total sun hours that the lettuce gets each day, which slows its bolting. The shade cloth also helps keep your bed a little bit cooler. I actually don't feel like I've exhausted all of the possibilities for row covers in raised beds, but I feel like we've touched on some. It's enough to get you started if this is new to you. Please add anything you think I might have missed down in the comments. Any pros, any cons, any other uses. I think row covers are just awesome gardening technology. I know they're not as shiny and cool looking as some of the other stuff you can find out on the internet, but in terms of cost and practicality, it's really hard to beat them. I just got the ability to have channel members. If you're considering being a channel member, that little join button right underneath this video, I've made a video all about my channel memberships. Check it out. Make sure you're subscribed, like this video if you like this video, and thank you for joining me here in my garden today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your own.